Mallory told Angela, and I quote, that Angela is her emotional parachute, which I don't know if Angela is like the greatest emotional parachute to have. I feel like if that is your parachute, it might not work if you try and pull it. What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday. Here to talk about yesterday's live feeds in the Big Brother house. I am trying to get into the groove of doing these updates and watching these feeds off and on all day long. But right now, my notes are all over the place, so you're going to have to just bear with me today. I usually like to try and have it more like formatted so that it doesn't seem like it's all over the place, but it's all over the place today. So yeah, I'm just gonna give my thoughts on everything that I've been seeing on live feeds. If you agree or disagree in the comments, do let me know. We're gonna start with this whole Drew and Mallory thing because that's the first thing in my notes, that they have this duo going on, this alliance, this final two. And Melanie's doing a pretty good job of clocking that Angela, Dee, Devin's kind of working with Kamu, Chuk, Haley. But I think because Drew is also in an alliance with those people that aren't Kamu, Chuk, and Haley, but he's in an alliance with the veterans and Barrett, he is not wanting to have this side thing with Melanie because instead of Drew like having this connection to himself, he already discussed it with Devins and basically kind of dogged her out to Devins yesterday. And I don't think that's smart. I think it's way too early to be discounting other alliances just because you're in an alliance with veterans. I don't like this marking out over the vets. And I feel like both Drew and Barrett are doing that, and I don't necessarily respect it, even though it is a good move for now. But Drew already throwing another potential ally under the bus in the first few days is not smart in the long run. Jason is also, on this whole Kamu and Haley thing. There is this trio of Kamu, Haley, and Chuk that I think is becoming more and more obvious to a lot of people in the house. But Jason is also clocking that Kamu and Haley are upstairs with Dee a lot. And I think that, as we're going to discuss as my notes go along here, because I don't know where it is in my notes, Dee is doing better than I gave her credit for yesterday when I was trying to figure things out. I still don't think Dee should be making promises and already going back on her word within the first week. I think that is still stupid. But I do think socially, Dee is doing a good job of playing different alliances right now, which is easier as HOH, I will say. What I do like about Jason is he's like one of the only people that are not having these mark out moments for these vets and sees them as targets. I mean, him being another veteran of reality television, I guess, on Drag Race maybe makes it easier for him to see that Devins and Angela and Dee shouldn't be getting all cozy so soon. Before the veto yesterday, Angela told Mallory that she wanted to play in the veto for her. She would take Mallory off the block if she wins. Mallory told Angela, and I quote, that Angela is her emotional parachute, which I don't know if Angela is like the greatest emotional parachute to have. I feel like if that is your parachute, it might not work if you try and pull it, because Angela, we know, can spaz out very quickly. But so far, I really am enjoying Angela's social game this season. It is way better than her first season thus far. Another thing about Dee that I liked was that she understands that whoever wins the veto, this was before the veto, before Mallory won the veto, which we'll get to, but before that happened, Dee was saying that if somebody not nominated won the veto, which the people not nominated were Barrett and Mallory, who got to play in the veto, she was saying if one of them win, it's their prerogative, it's their veto. Like, who gives a fuck what the HOH thinks? And I wish more people thought like that, because Dee's saying this as the HOH, and it's always been true. If you have the veto, You do what you want to do with the veto. Who cares what the HOH thinks? The HOH already has all this power. The veto is for you to do what you want to do for what's best for your game. Mallory also talked to Barrett, who played in the veto before the veto, trying to get Barrett to save her. Barrett was just kind of talking around that because he did want to win the veto, but he didn't want to use the veto and save anyone. As I said, one of the real alliances so far, it's still very early, so I don't really want to call it a real alliance yet, but Dee, Devins, Angela, Barrett, and Drew seem to be a very solid 5 that give each other information when they get a chance to do so, and they're very good at giving information. Dee and Angela had a conversation about having complete trust in each other, although I will say I'm not convinced yet that Dee trusts Angela as much as Angela trusts her, but it does seem like they are building on that trust so far. And so if Dee is in this alliance with Devins, Angela, Barrett, Drew, then it seems like Dee is playing the Kamu and Haley side of things. Chuk is in there too, but I think Dee is closer to Kamu and Haley than Chuk, because Dee seems to have already told Barrett information that Kamu has been throwing him under the bus. And so there was this conversation yesterday between Barrett, Angela, and Devins talking about some of the other people in the house, and Barrett seems to really have it out for Haley and Kamu, and I think this is because Dee has told him this information about them throwing Barrett under the bus. Barrett told Angela that he's tempted to put up Haley, Kamu, and Chuk because they really are making it obvious that they are a trio. One thing I will say again about this alliance with Drew, Devins, Dee, Barrett, and Angela is that we know Barrett is kind of iffy with Drew because he had that cam chat on the first night of feeds that we got to see, talking about being shaky with Drew. I don't love that he's more trusting of the 3 vets than he is with Drew, though. So again, don't really respect this marking out for the vets. Taylor has been pushing, well, at first she was pushing an Ashley or Barrett nomination when she had a conversation with Dee, because Dee's whole logic between her nominations was to nominate someone from each group in the first competitions from the premiere, and those 2 were technically in a 4th group that didn't get to compete, Ashley and Barrett. There was logic behind this pitch to Dee, and I think Dee listened to this. I think Taylor's pitch to Dee worked because it was logical. That was Dee's logic. Even going back on her promise to Yash that at first she wouldn't nominate this certain group of people, then she nominated Yash anyway because of her nominating one person from each group that got to play in the competition. Yeah, Ashley and Barrett are that other group. She's not going to nominate Barrett because Barrett's in an alliance with her, but Ashley kind of is not making close ties in the house. People in the house are calling her a floater, and it's kind of soon to call her a floater, but she seems like someone that's going to be a floater. This whole dumb act that she's putting on that I only think is half an act might not be working because she's not making those ties. Yesterday, I was harsh on Barrett. He was better on the feeds yesterday. I feel like Barrett being able to get information out of these vets is working for him. I liked the conversation that Barrett and Taylor had, because Taylor talking about how she has a very hard time not being her authentic self, and she does what she wants to do. If she wants to leave a room, she's going to leave a room. And Barrett said that he sees that and appreciates that. Taylor talked about how LaTrice always says that Taylor's face is loud, that you can see Taylor's feelings on her face, which I do that too, I think, with my face. So clearly LaTrice is trying to coach Taylor to have a better social game, because LaTrice does seem to have a very good social game. But I like the things that Taylor says. Taylor likes to get knowledge from people. She told Angela that she was afraid of Angela on the first night when she first came in, because watching Angela on her season gave people a reason to feel that way. But I also like that Taylor is like comparing her time in the Big Brother house to the real world. She talked about how being a have-not made her understand some of her kids at her job. Like, how do you expect kids to come to school and focus and do work and homework when they haven't even eaten breakfast, if they're not getting a lot of good food at home or food at all at home? I think Taylor also works with the homeless, which is why she had that breakdown the other night that she's crying over being a have-not and having to eat slop when some people don't have food at all. Taylor is very endearing as a person. I think she is a very good person. She also had a conversation with Barrett here in the same conversation about how some of the people in the house are acting like the cool kids, and she doesn't know if she's going to fit in with the cool kids. And I think that is in regards to the whole Haley, Kamu, Chuk thing building. Although Kamu seems to really like Taylor, they bond over the Bible and all of that. One thing I did like about Yash before the veto competition is that he had a conversation with Taylor, who's also on the block, to kind of have the meeting of the minds and also like check on information to see if it's accurate or not. Because he was wondering if Dee told her the same thing about Mallory being the initial target, which Dee did. And that's a good thing, because I think this conversation between Yash and Taylor to check Dee's information to see that it was accurate with each other made them trust Dee more, because I think both of them are now currently at a spot that even though Dee just nominated them, they wouldn't nominate Dee back. Chuck and Rome had a conversation about how LaTrice is loyal with them. Rome thinks that he is good with Haley and Kamu still, even though I don't know if that's true. Chuck wondered if Rome and Yash were a duo. And then Rome talked about how he's been questioning Yash's trust. I don't know exactly what Yash did in the first few days before the feeds, but it seems like he really did break some sort of trust with Rome and Angela and both of those sides of things. Chuck was trying to warn Rome about having showmances and how showmances can be downfalls. And Rome's excuse to Chuck about he and Lyric being so close is that he was only getting close to her on the bed to listen to her talk because she's been losing her voice, which I don't know if that's Lyric's excuse for her awful baby voice or what, but it might be. But this is definitely Rome's excuse as to he and Lyric aren't getting close in a showmance yet. He was just getting close to listen to her. And I think Chuck bought that because Chuck kind of dumb. Lala and Haley had a game chat about relationships within the house. I think LaTrice needs to not have these conversations with Haley because I think Haley will use this information against LaTrice. But she got advice from LaTrice, and it was good advice from LaTrice telling Haley to chill a bit because it seems like Haley likes to work a room and people are going to notice that. They also talked about the vets because LaTrice says they can't sleep on Angela, which Haley definitely agrees with. They also agree that Devins is dangerous. However, they both like Dee, who, actually won a game before. They seem more trusting about Dee than Angela and Rick. I don't know if that's an age thing. I don't know if that's a personality thing. But either way, Dee's working her social game. I gave her a lot of shit yesterday because I still think it is bad social game to promise people so soon and then go against your word. But it's not like people are holding that against her. Although I do think that is what might keep Dee from nominating Melody, because Melody is somebody else she said she wouldn't nominate. Before the veto, Melody was ranting about Mallory having all these meltdowns, telling Drew she can't work with someone like Mallory because she just gets angry. She just continues to tell Drew all of her thoughts, even though Drew continues to go behind Melody's back and tell her thoughts to everyone else. Drew is playing the fuck out of Melody, and that would be like a good thing if she's going to go home in the next week or two. But if she doesn't go home in the next week or two, I think Drew, like I said earlier, is just leaving an ally on the table if it ever gets back to Melody that Drew's been a big old backstabber. Mallory did win the veto. She is safe. She will not be going home this week. Afterwards, Melody was still talking about Mallory to Drew, saying, and I quote, "Okay, you can win a comp, but if it goes south, are you going to crash out again?" Mallory still doesn't seem to want to be close to Mallory after Mallory's reaction to being nominated being a spiral. Mallory talked to Lyric about Melody. I guess Melody said she wouldn't use the veto on Mallory if she won the veto. So I think Mallory is starting to see that Melody has been a fake friend with her. But now that Mallory is safe, Melody is just making another enemy. I would love for one of them to go because I already don't like talking about Mallory and then Melody. That's too similar of a name for me, and I already suck with names. LaTrice and Taylor talked about Mallory winning the veto. LaTrice wants Ashley to be the renom because, like I said, people see her as a floater already. Taylor was comparing Ashley's game to last year's Ashley, the winner, and the strategy of playing ditzy and then floating her way to the end, which is kind of what Ashley is trying to do. I mean, Big Brother 27 Ashley last year was a really good player, and I don't think this Ashley is going to be able to match that. But Taylor is already clocking Ashley's strategy of playing ditzy. Although, like I keep saying, I think that's a half strategy, half truth that Ashley is just kind of dumb. The two left on the block, Yash and Taylor, had another conversation. They were talking about possible allies for them or votes for them. Jason, Barrett, Rome, Lyric, maybe Mallory. Maybe they can make an alliance shake with some of those people or all of those people. They also discussed if they have a better chance of staying if one of them is left on the block with Ashley versus Melody, because LaTrice still wants Ashley to be the replacement nominee this week. But Taylor is worried that if it comes down to her versus Ashley or Yash versus Ashley, they go home next to Ashley, which I think Yash definitely does. I think Taylor, like, she's not in the best spot for sure, but she is making relationships and she has people that like her on different sides. Kamu really likes her, and I think people like, obviously, Jason really like her. Angela is promising Taylor her vote no matter who Taylor is next to. So she's gaining votes. I think if she could get out of this have not funk, maybe her social game would really improve. One thing I don't like about Taylor, though, is that I feel like she's not someone who's going to be able to throw people under the bus to try and stay in the game. I feel like she is a little, or maybe even a lot, too pure for the game. Does not want to do a lot of backstabbing and all of that. And when you're on the block next to someone, you need to fight for your spot in the game. And I don't know if Taylor's going to fight hard enough for that. I hope she does, though. Taylor also did talk about that if Melody is the renom, then it's going to make Dee look like trash because Dee's going to go against her word again. Chuck had this idea later in the night last night saying that Rome is very open, that he's playing with certain people, and that his number one is LaTrice. Chuck is dumb because he is just buying everything Rome is selling about the Roman lyric showmance. That is not even really hiding in plain sight, in my opinion, if people would just pay more attention. And I feel like most people are paying attention, but they're brushing it off. And maybe they're brushing it off because it's, day 5, and this showmance is moving so quickly. But I guess because Chuck has it out for Rome for whatever reason right now, maybe he's just buying everything that Haley and Kamu are selling about Rome. But Chuck thinks that Lala, LaTrice, would be a great renom, and he just wants to see her and Rome's faces when they're put up. Haley says nothing would make her happier too, because like I said, Haley is getting information out of LaTrice, getting advice from LaTrice, but then going behind LaTrice's back, not trusting her at all. Chuck now playing into that too. But I think they're not going to be able to convince Dee to do that. I think that would be a stupid social move all around. And even though I don't like all of Dee's social moves, she's still having a good social game so far. Late in the night, actually early this morning, like 6 hours ago, or probably 7 by the time this airs, Lyric and her baby voice went up to the HOH room to see where Dee's head is at. Dee confirmed that she is not nominating her as a renom, which is good because I guess you can't hurt the baby's feelings. But Dee and Lyric agreed that they noticed that Haley, Chuck, and Kamu have been working the house and have been really close. And then when Rome was asleep at 4 a.m., Lyric tried to sneak into his bed, upset that he was already asleep, acting like it was still early, but it was 4 in the morning. Rome did not wake up and give into whatever kind of debauchery that Lyric wanted to do. Kamu told Haley, Devins, and Chuck that before the veto comp was over, he realized Mallory isn't the move, that Yash is the move. So he thinks taking out players like Mallory or Lyric will only leave the stronger competitors in the game. I think Kamu says if we put LaTrice on the block, then we can get Yash out against either Taylor or LaTrice. Before Rome did go to bed, Devins did try to get close to Rome, although he kept calling Rome a threat, and I need to be close to a threat like you. If I was being called a threat, especially by Rick Devins, I would feel some kind of way about Rick Devins. But I think it was maybe some sort of ego stroke to Rome too. I'm not exactly sure what Devins' game is yet. We know he can be loyal, especially to one person. He did say in his pregame interview that he wants to use his loyalty to create chaos this season and maybe not be as loyal to a group as he usually would. We'll see what kind of chaos that brings. Dee did tell Drew and Barrett that Ashley is who she wants as the replacement nominee. I think that conversation with Taylor helped her get to that nominee. Dee says that she does not want to do anything without talking to Drew and Barrett, and Drew is having fun being in this secret alliance. If only he could have kept his other secret duo a secret too. Dee seems to want Yash out over Taylor if it comes down to those two on the block. Barrett questioning if there will be votes to do that. I think those votes against Yash are growing, at least for right now. They are calling the Kamu, Haley, and Chuck alliance the red corner. I don't know if that's because they are the conservatives, but that seems to be the case. Dee was asking Drew if the red corner alliance had gotten together today. Drew said no, but Dee sees that those three are just using her this week as HOH, and she doesn't care. And I also think that Dee can see them as a shield, or does see them as a shield, that if somebody wants to nominate her next week, but she's on the block against one of those three might go home over her, because they're starting to be too obvious about their trio, while also maybe rubbing some people the wrong way. This is when Drew also told Barrett and Dee about his alliance with Melody, throwing Melody under the bus, how Melody was going after her friend Mallory so soon. So, I can kind of see why maybe Drew doesn't trust Melody, because Melody was already turning on Mallory, but, I still think Drew is stupid for not having Melody in his back pocket. And I do also feel in this conversation that Drew and Barrett were trying to kind of push Dee to nominate Melody instead of Ashley, but I think Dee would rather put up Ashley because Ashley would stay no matter what. Although I don't think Dee and Ashley are close, so I don't really understand that reasoning either. Jason did spot Dee, Barrett, and Drew talking in the backyard, and since Jason is already out for the vets, I do wonder how he will take that information. Jason seems more after Rick than Angela and Dee, but that could always change. That's most of my notes. Angela did twerk last night for anyone that wanted to see that. They were having a lot of fun last night, though. I did enjoy Rome and Taylor, and when everyone was up in the HOH watching certain people downstairs, pretending to say what they thought they were saying, like it was Lala and Kamu at one point. It was very funny. And LaTrice did find an open box of condoms, and one was missing. Does that mean that within 4 days, Rome and Lyric went that far? That's crazy. That baby voice must be really revving up Rome's engines.